Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and at the huge Tommy Robinson KKK rally yesterday, the proceedings featured a live link with Space Karen, who told the assembled throng that the UK can't wait 4 years for the next election and needs Parliament to be dissolved now. But not only is he calling for anarchy in Britain, because that's the only way Parliament gets dissolved early without the government's blessing, but he doesn't even like any of the alternatives to the current government anyway. Like, he's famously now really annoyed with Nigel Farage. So what's his angle here? Does he genuinely think he gets some benefit from the collapse of the British Constitution? Is this just carrying out his instructions from the Kremlin? Or is he just as high as a kite again? But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So there's really no other way of putting it. At the so-called Unite the Kingdom rally yesterday, Elon Musk called on the people assembled to literally destroy the kingdom. He didn't just say that Parliament needs to be dissolved because he doesn't like our government. He specifically called for it to happen by force. Armed revolution. He was inciting violent insurrection. And Starmer had best take no shit from Trump this week about freedom of speech, because a government that actually allows such a large assembly to openly discuss armed insurrection is not crushing free speech. It's hard to see how, if you follow Musk's logic, he actually gains from this. If Britain did descend into armed revolution, that would be pretty bad for Musk's business model, wouldn't it? I know we've stopped buying a lot of Teslas already, but does he really want us to stop buying all of them? Also, his burgeoning AI ventures would be cut dead, as the current government is really wanting to lean into that in a way that other parties don't. And then, even if his dream actually came true without an actual collapse of British society, Musk doesn't even like the alternatives. Even if Reform UK could form a majority government, which at no point have the polls said is likely, well, Musk hates Farage now as well, doesn't he? Seems mad. Yet Musk has a reason for everything. Unlike Trump, who is focused entirely on the USA because his motivation is personal power and wealth, Musk has been politically active in Europe as well as America. He is actively pursuing major political change across the West, not just in his adopted country. Like the other far-right populists, he leans into immigration and asylum issues in order to build up the outrage he needs for support, but he has no serious interest in this. In America, remember, he urged Trump to loosen immigration restrictions for his own businesses. Musk is motivated by money. I can't imagine suddenly dropping to only the second wealthiest person in the world this month put him in a good mood. He wants to be the world's first trillionaire. Power through wealth rather than standard politics seems to be his method. Let the politicians duke it out and then just pay the winner to do whatever he wants. Only some politicians won't do what he wants. So he has to get himself involved in helping the right sort of politicians, for him, win power by fair means or foul. So why is Musk so interested in Europe? How does destabilising it help him? Well, it begins with his purchase of Twitter. He bought a loss-making social media platform and then made it even more loss-making. He did not pick it up cheaply either. He constructed a very complex series of loans in order to purchase the platform, then promptly chased away many of the big advertisers, crushing what little revenue potential it had. But he didn't do this for a laugh. It was actually a way of making more money. He even said that if Trump had lost the election last year, he'd have been screwed. He used more colourful language himself, but the same meaning. Twitter is actually very valuable to him. Twitter in isolation is a drain on his resources, but it's very valuable to him overall. But in order to extract maximum value, he needs to be able to run it exactly as he would like. Europe's a bit of a barrier to that. The EU's regulation on harmful speech is a threat to his operations. Even the UK, much weaker outside the EU, still has laws requiring social media platforms do more to remove harmful content, with plans to beef the requirements up further in the coming years. Falling out with Trump in America seems to be more of an inconvenience to Musk than a serious problem. He may not have got his EV tax breaks, but Trump is still reshaping the regulatory landscape in his favour. And as we saw from the recent congressional hearing where Nigel Farage disgraced himself, he even has Republicans helping to put pressure on Europe to deregulate hate speech and harmful online content. So if we imagine a future whereby these laws are completely abolished across Europe, then Musk and Zuckerberg get to decide what most people think. People are increasingly mistrustful of the mainstream media for news, which means people are seeking it out from what appear to be independent sources. Only a lot of the more successful sources of news on social media are anything but independent. Deregulating lets Musk become one of the very small number of media barons, one of probably two, who will decide the truth for hundreds of millions of people. And once you can directly control people's perceptions of the world, you can get them to install the governments you want. And once you can do that, your wealth is assured. Trump is just a phase for Musk. In a few years, one way or another, he will be gone, and Musk will think he'll be able to have much more productive relations with his successor. As long as the MAGA regime remains in place, Musk's American plans are fine, despite the current friction with Trump. This is why he's now working to destabilise Britain, France, Germany, anywhere he thinks is vulnerable. He might have gone off Nigel Farage, but he knows a Farage-led government would happily deregulate the media and give Musk the power he craves. I think Musk is imagining a future where he effectively becomes one of a very, very small number of people who basically rule the world. Let individual countries think they're electing their own governments. He will decide who they vote for, and those governments will do what he says. It's cartoonish megalomania. It's also very dangerous because I cannot say for certain that this plan is doomed. We've already seen the influence that Musk has on politics via his Twitter platform. Imagine the impact if he didn't have to comply with any laws when directing it to amplify certain messages and suppress others. But what's the defence? Well, the obvious defence is to go further and faster in regulating against this evil. Yet, because he has the US government pressuring the UK and EU to deregulate, it's not that easy. We're playing a delicate diplomatic game here. We need the US on side for defensive purposes. And even if we could ride this storm out, let's say we could get to a point in 10 years' time, sort of bumble along, and then defensively we can sort ourselves out, hopefully, we'll always need the US for trade. And Trump has shown himself willing to act in the most self-defeating way with his tariffs. If the UK proceeds with tighter regulations and Trump initiates punitive action, that will certainly prevent Labour's effort to fix the economy. Certain to lose. If Labour cannot improve people's standard of living, doesn't matter what happens, doesn't matter if they get a whole new advisory team in, doesn't matter what Labour do, they could suddenly become the most expert political machine on the planet. If they cannot raise the standard of living for people, they will lose the next election, guaranteed. And Musk wins. This is why Trump's visit is actually really important, despite some people's discomfort. It's absolutely vital that Trump visits because one of the big issues Starmer will be discussing with him face-to-face is freedom of speech. He needs to persuade Trump that we are committed to it, even though we have regulations against harmful content. Whether or not Trump thinks it's harmful is another matter. Or at the very least, we need to persuade Trump that it's not worth his time bothering about how we do things in Europe. You just focus over there, Don, mate. You leave us to do our thing here. Dangle the carrots, because we need to do something to tackle the poison which Musk and Zuckerberg are helping to spread. So as insane as Musk's actions appear to be, they are motivated by simple greed, because he doesn't actually want to trigger armed revolution. That would be terrible for his profits. But he also doesn't think it will happen. It's a much more serious risk in America, ironically. He just wants British society to be unstable enough to make that economic recovery impossible, to stop Labour being able to improve people's standard of living. Just make the country unstable enough for Labour to lose in 2029 and be replaced by a government who will do exactly what he says. The same in other European centres. France needs to be paying very careful attention to this as well. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams and behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.